The night she said she needed a husband by tomorrow did not arrive gently. It crashed into my life like a storm with no warning, heavy with rain, regret, and unfinished prayers. The city lights outside my small apartment flickered like tired stars, and somewhere between the hum of the ceiling fan and the distant horns on the road below, I realized that one sentence could change the direction of two lives forever. Some moments don't ask for permission. They simply arrive, sit down in your chest, and refuse to leave. Before the story pulls you deeper, let me pause for a heartbeat. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when broken people choose compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your support keeps stories like this alive, and maybe, just maybe, reminds the world that goodness still exists. I had known her for years, though not in the way people imagine when they hear a story like this. She was part of the background of my life, like a familiar street or an old song you don't realize you love until it stops playing. We worked in the same building once, shared the same elevator, the same awkward nods, the same polite smiles that never crossed into anything dangerous or romantic. Life had kept us in neighboring lanes, close enough to recognize each other's exhaustion, far enough to never ask why. That night, exhaustion was written all over her. It clung to her face, her posture, the way she held herself together as if one wrong breath might cause everything to collapse. She carried the weight of expectations that were not hers to carry, traditions that felt heavier than truth, and a family timeline that had no patience for delays or dreams. Tomorrow was not a metaphor. Tomorrow was real, concrete, and terrifying. It was the deadline her world had set for her to become someone she was not ready to be. Her problem was not love. It was survival. In her world, being unmarried had become a mark, a whispered rumor, a reason for relatives to look at her with pity or suspicion. A proposal had fallen through, explanations had failed, and now there was only one option left in the eyes of those who controlled her future. Appear married. Appear settled. Appear safe. Or lose everything she had built with quiet determination. I listened as the truth spilled out in uneven waves, not with shock but with a strange clarity. Sometimes life doesn't give you time to be confused. It hands you a choice and watches to see who you really are. I saw fear in her, yes, but I also saw courage. The courage it takes to ask for help when pride screams to stay silent. The courage to admit you are cornered. When the words formed in my mind, they surprised even me. Offering my place was not romantic or heroic. It was practical, messy, and risky. If she needed to pretend, then the lie had to look real. Shared space. Shared routines. Shared proof of existence. It was not about saving her reputation, it was about giving her breathing room, even if it meant stepping into chaos myself. The days that followed felt unreal, like a movie shot with a handheld camera, shaky and intimate. She moved into my small apartment with a single suitcase and 1,000 unspoken fears. The walls, once quiet witnesses to my solitary life, now absorbed tension, whispered prayers, and long silences that said more than words ever could. We set rules without speaking them, boundaries built from mutual respect and uncertainty. There was no pretending between us when no one else was watching. Only two people learning how to coexist inside a fragile illusion. Living together revealed truths neither of us had planned to confront. I saw how she flinched at sudden noises, how she woke before dawn as if rest itself was something she had to earn. She saw my loneliness, the kind that doesn't announce itself loudly but settles deep into habits and routines. We were both survivors of different battles, carrying scars that didn't bleed but still ached. The hardest part was not the lie itself. It was the moments when the lie felt easier than the truth. When relatives visited and laughter filled the room, when shared meals began to feel comforting instead of staged, when silence turned from awkward to safe. Suspense crept in quietly, not from fear of being discovered, but from the growing realization that something real was forming inside something fake. But reality has a way of demanding payment. The closer we grew, the more dangerous the arrangement became. Feelings don't ask if they are allowed. They simply appear, especially when two people are vulnerable together for too long. I struggled with guilt, questioning whether kindness had crossed into manipulation, whether offering shelter had given birth to expectations neither of us had named. She struggled with gratitude tangled with confusion, unsure whether her comfort was built on obligation or choice. One night, everything almost fell apart. The pressure from her family intensified, plans escalated, and the lie threatened to swallow us whole. I watched her crumble under the weight of it all, and for the first time, I understood that saving someone does not mean carrying their burden alone. Sometimes it means standing still while they decide who they want to be. Change did not come in a dramatic revelation. It arrived slowly, like light through a cracked door. She began to stand taller, to speak with more certainty, to reclaim parts of herself she had buried under expectations. I learned that kindness is not about grand gestures but consistent presence. About staying when it would be easier to step back. About offering support without demanding outcomes. As days turned into weeks, the question shifted. It was no longer about needing a husband by tomorrow. It was about choosing a life by herself, for herself. Whether that included me or not. And in that uncertainty, something beautiful happened. The lie lost its power. Truth, fragile and terrifying, began to feel possible. By the time the illusion was no longer necessary, we were no longer the same people who had created it. The apartment felt different, warmer, fuller. Not because of romance promised or futures guaranteed, but because two broken timelines had intersected long enough to heal something essential in both of us. In the end, the world did not collapse when the truth emerged. Some relationships strained, some expectations shattered, but freedom arrived quietly, carrying relief instead of regret. She walked forward stronger, no longer asking permission to exist on her own terms. I stood beside her, not as a savior or solution, but as someone who had learned that love often begins with simple human decency. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives in ways we never anticipate, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that are still searching for hope. Before you leave, I have one special request. Please comment a single line below about what kindness means to you, or a moment when someone's compassion changed your life. Your words might become the light someone else needs tonight. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a destiny is one person willing to open their door when the world is closing in.